Hello, my name is Dr. Stuart Ravnik, and I'm a professor here at UT Southwestern in Dallas. I have been a scientist for my entire career, and my talk today is called Trust Me, I'm a Scientist. Now, I'm sure you've all heard the joke about trust us, we're the government, and now you hear more about trusting in science. Maybe you've heard an article in the newspaper or you've read something on social media about how science is viewed more and more with distrust these days. I don't understand how that came about, but I do know that scientists, we need to be better communicators of what goes on in science. So I want to give you an example. I remember engaging in a conversation in Facebook several years ago, and the basic gist of what the conversation was about was this young woman was saying that she can't trust anything that came from scientists because scientists are all funded from the government. And of course, she can't trust anything the government does. Have you ever had a conversation with that? Have you ever overheard or seen something where you just can't engage someone and you get frustrated? Maybe you want to just throw in the towel. I've thought about that myself. Well, I'm here with you on this talk today because I want you to understand that as a scientist, not only am I passionate about the science that I do, that we as a scientific community do, but also I'm passionate as an educator. I never want to give up on learning and a chance to remember and learn something. So in this short presentation, I want to give you an example of mistrust in science that is real. You can look it up if you want. I also want to talk with you about ways that this trust can be restored and actually has been restored. And finally, give you some idea of what the scientific community is doing to further prevent situations such as this example. So I'm sure that amongst you, some of you have known someone who has or has been affected by cancer. It's a devastating disease, and watching a loved one suffer can be heartbreaking. Just recently, the daughter of one of my former students spent months in the hospital for childhood leukemia. It was a very bad form of it, too. Well, she was just released after using the brand new CAR T therapy. Maybe you've seen some of the headlines for that. Thank goodness, young girl can be on her road to recovery. That's great. Well, imagine if you had read a headline about university researcher faked data putting patients' lives at risk. Wouldn't that be awful? Boy, you would think, oh my gosh, how could I ever trust what's coming out of this university or from this scientist? Or maybe long term, you just don't trust science anymore. Obviously, that would be horrible. But I want to tell you about what the next headline is. Next headline would be, the university did everything they could to punish that researcher. And actually, they cleaned up the mess, and they put in policies to not only protect the science, but also protect the patients. And this is actually what happened. This major university has been a leader in new ways to educate scientists. In fact, since the 1990s, the National Institutes of Health, the largest funder of university medical research, has put in policies that require universities to not only have methods to detect fraud and misconduct, but also training young scientists against fraud and misconduct. In fact, over a decade, my job has been to train our young scientists, our PhD and postdoctoral fellows, in what's called responsible conduct of research. I pretty much tell them that we are actually taught this at a young age. You probably remember too. Don't lie, don't cheat, and don't steal. Well, of course, in kindergarten, you're supposed to sometimes take a nap, but hopefully you're not taking a nap today. In fact, studies show that with the research training that's been going on, only a very, very small percentage of scientists who do commit fraud knew what they were doing was wrong. But there were policies in place to detect it and make it easier to detect and actually deter a scientist from doing bad stuff. Okay. We have a moral obligation as scientists to do well thought out and accurate research. But we also have a moral and even an economic obligation to you, the public, to make sure that that science is carried out well and do everything we can to detect and deter science from pursuing wrongdoing. And the news is really good. At my university, for example, just with our research training that we've been doing, for the last several years for these young scientists, we've had not a single case of research misconduct from those that have received training. So here are my top 3 takeaways. Trust in science isn't just because we tell you to. Trust comes from the way that you understand that we can carry out science. It comes from us being better communicators and telling you exactly what we're doing and why it's important. And third, trust also comes from the fact that we need to train our scientists in the responsible conduct of research, and we're doing so. And I want you, the public, to understand that. So I'll leave you with this. Here's something you don't understand. Here's something maybe you don't trust, or someone else tells you that, oh, don't trust that, it came from X university. Well, ask. Find a scientist. Ask them. I know that if you Google Ask a Scientist, you will come up with lots of places where you can engage with scientists online. You can also go to a science museum. You can go to a scientific presentation. Or sometimes you can even just send me an email and just raise your hand and ask. So thank you very much. I hope you have a great day.